Father Mark Byron, who had been a priest since 1994, taught junior and senior theology at St. Jude High School in Myersville, Ohio. He also ran the National Honor Society chapter for the school. Open your Bibles to this passage, everyone. If you don't have one, share with the person next to you. He was well liked for his short homilies, which he always began with a joke, and for treating his students as equals. And Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, when my brother wrongs me, how often must I forgive?" In December of 2002, Father Mark was accused of visiting a child pornography website. He had gone more than once, and was convicted under the Federal Child Pornography Prevention Act of 1996. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison, and an extensive investigation by the church began shortly thereafter. During the course of his sentence, Father Mark corresponded with friends, family, and the church through letters. Some wrote often, some wrote occasionally, some not at all. The church officials in the Myersville diocese refused to defrock him. He did not fall under the no-tolerance policy handed down by the church that year. Since he didn't molest anybody or hurt anyone directly, they left his case in limbo. They barred Father Mark from any future pastoring and preaching to congregations. Father Mark had to fight with the diocese to maintain his health coverage during his battle with stomach cancer. He cooperated with the law and with church policy and was granted parole 14 months after his imprisonment. The state of Ohio set him up in a halfway home for about a month while he was to search for a place to live, for a car, and for a job. An old friend, the pastor at Blessed Mary Parish, offered to rent Mark an apartment on the church grounds. Conditions of Mark's parole included not being allowed near computers with internet access and to having supervision whenever he used any computer. He also was required to register with the state as a sex offender. This information became public. Local groups attempted to have him thrown off of church grounds, but the pastor and president refused.
Worked here a few months or so. You?
Oh, just a couple of weeks. I like it so far. People seem friendly. Mark found 2 jobs, a volunteer position at a nearby Methodist homeless shelter and a paying position at Crossroads, a charity organization in Myersville. When the public found out where Mark worked, certain groups wanted him fired, citing as a primary concern the safety of younger volunteers. But Charles Stillman, manager of the Myersville chapter, would not fire him. Mark was a good worker, and they needed his help.
Section 2252A. Any person who knowingly receives or distributes any child pornography shall be fined or imprisoned under this title, not more than
Early in September, the National Office of Crossroads received word that a sex offender was working at the Myersville chapter and warned that their funding would be cut unless Mark's employment were terminated.
I'm sorry, Mark.
Given this choice, Father Mark was allowed to resign. Father Mark is now 57. He is technically still a priest under Catholic canonical law. He takes walks daily to keep his weight down. He is no longer permitted to teach children or be around them in a professional setting. He may not preach to or lead a congregation and cannot give or receive the Eucharist, although he can say Mass by himself or in the presence of a few people. He cannot hear confession, though he himself still goes often. He keeps in touch with friends from St. Jude and still writes letters to friends and family out of town. O God, I have no idea where I am going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself, and the fact that I think I am following your will does not mean I am actually doing so. But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you, and I hope that I will never do anything apart from that desire. And I know that if I do, you will always lead me by the right road, though I may know nothing about it. Therefore I will trust you always, though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death. I will not fear, for you are ever with me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone. Amen.